Thank you for being here and sticking to the end. I hope it's worth it, and I hope you enjoy. My talk is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to talk to you about a cultural journey, but also about a business transformation. It's not only about HR, but about how the whole company transform. And MorphoSys, if you are not familiar with the name, or MorphoSys, sometimes they say it also in German circles, was founded in 1992. It's a biotech. And when it was founded, it was about engineering the medicines of tomorrow. That was the motto. That was the vision. And in 2022, early this year, we changed our mission to more life for people with cancer. And just these two mottos, these two visions, really represent the journey I'm going to talk to you about. Because the company transformed. We're not a young biotech. We're 30 years old. We're an old diva, maybe. And we were one of the first companies to be in the Neue Markt. So we are publicly traded in the US and Germany. And it has been quite a journey. So what has been the journey? We will talk about our business model, how we change also our DNA, how we evolve our culture, and also what are some of the cultural challenges that we are seeing as part of this evolution and as part of the times in which we're living right now. So first of all, who are we? What do we do? So MorphoSys was founded as a contract research organization. So that meant that we research for other big pharmaceutical companies. Our clients were Roche, Novartis, Pfizer, Bayer, Boehringer. So we were doing antibody development. We were engineering antibodies. So we were experts in protein and peptides, and we had a specific antibody library. And with that, we looked for new medicines, and we tried to engineer the antibodies to cure different kinds of diseases. And some of the medicines that came out of that research collaboration have been for psoriasis and for rheumatoid arthritis. Also, right now there is one that we're expecting the results, which could be for Alzheimer's. So if it would be successful, the results are coming at the end of November from Roche, gantenerumab. That could be great. A great message for patients. So a lot of these antibodies are still in the research in many companies around the world. And at some point, about 2017, the company decided to make a change and to evolve the business model into not only selling research capabilities and letting others bring these medicines to patients, but actually to do it ourselves. And that meant a completely change of what the company was about to do. Before, it was all about labs and the research being done by other companies, but it was a much more stable business model because you had a fee for service, you had a big contract with Novartis, you knew they were going to reimburse your headcount, you do work, and then they take it forward. When you are in the pharmaceutical business, you carry a lot of risk when you do clinical trials. They cost hundreds of millions. And then you don't know if they're going to be successful or not. If they are successful, the reward is high, but also the risk is much higher. But we made a purposeful decision to want to be in this business, to really develop these medicines for ourselves. And that's the journey. And we had our first medicine approved in 2020. In the middle of COVID, our first medicine, we're experts in hematology oncology, and it was for DLBCL. And so the company started to transform and to deliver on that vision of bringing medicines directly to patients and not researching for somebody else. And this is where we are right now. And who do we want to become? We want to become really a powerhouse in hematology oncology. Medicine and even oncology is a huge undertaking. There are so many cancers that are still needing for new treatments. And our vision is to become really a leader in hematology oncology, all kinds of lymphomas, leukemias, myelofibrosis. And we want to have 2 products in the market by 2025. So we right now are not only commercializing our first product, but also running clinical trials for our second product, which would be for myelofibrosis. So this business model implied a complete change for the whole company and also for the culture of the company. And how did we do that? So I joined the company, just so that you are aware, 2.5 years ago. I am originally from Spain, as you can hear from my accent and my name, but I've been working in Germany for many years. First for Bayer, then for Boehringer Ingelheim, and most recently in April 2020, I joined MorphoSys. And since then, I'm the head of HR. And I have a team that is based in Munich and Boston. And when I think first, how did the workforce evolve? You see here that actually at the beginning we were fairly stable. I didn't put the previous years because this is when really the decision was made that we were going to become who we are today. And we were a company of about 300 people, fairly successful. We were well known, Neue Markt, publicly listed, and we were doing quite some good things in terms of our research. And then when we started to prepare for our first commercial launch, we started to also change the profile of the people we were needing and also where we needed them. And then in 2020, in the middle of 2020, we launched. We implemented our US subsidiary. And then in 2021, to fuel our growth, we also went through an M&A. And we acquired a biotech in Boston, Constellation Pharmaceuticals. So 2021 was a year of integration. And then in 2022, we're now in a post-merger state. We have also synergized. We have really now a balanced workforce, which is a combination of R&D, continues to be the biggest part, but now we have a big proportion, more than 20% of the workforce is in sales. And that already changes your culture. So the composition of your workforce also has a lot to do with how your culture is and how you work together. And we are 70-30 based in Germany and the United States. But even in Germany, we have in this time hired so many international people that our Munich site is a very international site, and more than 50% of the people are international. So we have really in this time also internationalized the company. Before, MorphoSys was pretty German, I would say, from the type of people who worked there, the sites that were that we had, and also the kind of people we employed. So the first change came also with the workforce. We needed a different kind of workforce to do what we decided to be. And we also needed different structures and business areas, different capabilities. We needed to evolve what we were good at and acquire new capabilities. And this is just a reflection on the kind of things we needed. And some of this is very pharmaceutical, but when we think about, for example, the kind of clinical trial expertise, the development, one thing is to do things in the lab, but then another thing is when you do clinical trials and you actually work with doctors to really test the product. So we really needed to scale up. We also work a lot on partnerships with other companies, and we needed at some point to even go into an M&A, not only partner with people, but we acquire another company. We needed that capability. And of course, supply chain. When you commercialize and you are impacting patients, you also need to produce the product and you need to also bring it to patients. So the company also needed to find new structures and also increase the level of skills and capabilities to do these things. And it all came through the hiring of new teams, but also through the evolution of how work was being done. So where are our company or where are our employees coming from? And in this time between, I'm going to look at the time in which I've been recently in the company to tell you from my own experience as well, where the most growth happened is between 19 and 22. We hired 200 people in the US. We hired 115 people in Germany. And so we really doubled our size, and we hired from both small biotechs and big pharma companies. And they also have different cultures. When you look at all these are the kind of companies that we hire from. So we got these statistics from LinkedIn. And of course, every company and everyone that comes from these companies brings a heritage with them. And the challenge is, how do you unify them around the new vision? I think we were talking to you before about the airline industry. Do you hire people from others, and can you rewire them? Can you make them unlearn what they learned in other companies to really have the culture that you need for your business? And this is definitely a challenge when you hire so many people and then they're coming from so many places. We don't hire young students. We need people with a lot of experience. So our average age for recruiting is around 41. And so we hire people that have had a previous life. So very often you say, in my previous life, I did this or that. No? So we hire people with previous lives, and you need to galvanize them around the new vision. And this is our new vision. We are bold, we are groundbreaking, and we bring humanity. And these attributes, we translated them into an employer branding, and the kind of people we were looking for were different from the people we had in the past. And there were people that had resilience. This is a little bit of a roller coaster. When you are preparing for launch, you are acquiring a company, you are integrating, you are synergizing. So you need people that can go with it. This is a constant change. I don't want to talk about change. It's much more, it's a constant evolution. There is not a beginning, there is not an end, there is an evolution. So you need to hang in there. You need to be able to go with it. And this requires resilience. It's one of the first things we look for. Second is growth mindset. We're growing the company. We need people that can grow with the company, and even they will not get stuck in the roles, even if the company grows or more things are needed from them. They need to have that growth mindset. And that is extremely important. We have had cases where people have not been able to keep up with the growth, where they have been stuck in the roles and they could not deliver to the new levels of requirements, even though they didn't change the role. But the company was expecting something different from them because the growth of the company and the business model also changed that. So people need to be able to grow with the company and to grow themselves. And then, of course, this can-do attitude. We are in a very dynamic space when you are growing, when you are building new structures. So there needs to be a can-do attitude. There needs to be also a certain level of pragmatism and also operational will to, we are kind of like a scale up. We're of course no longer a startup, but we need people that want to get things done. So this is the first change, came also with the kind of people we were looking for, and we changed the kind of profile we were looking for. And it's very important, especially that growth mindset. We need to hire people that can grow even further than the role that we're hiring them on. Then our culture. So we needed to keep the good things that really made MorphoSys so successful, why it was founded, that had to do with this strong German heritage, the scientific orientation, and the partnerships. We were a partner to any pharmaceutical company that is out there. So these are the things that made us so strong. And then we needed to then evolve and create a new DNA that was not opposite to who we were, and things that not only that maybe were counterintuitive. So if we move here, you see, we needed to grow, but we didn't want to become bureaucratic. We wanted to remain agile. When you are doubling your workforce, adding new departments, you create complexity. How do you make it still agile and non-bureaucratic? How do you keep flat hierarchies? How do you make sure that you build in the right places, but you don't build layers? And we have been at the beginning, I must say, we grew up a little bit more on the management. We grew everywhere, but it was a little bit oversized. And in the last year and a half, we have also flattened some structures, reduced some of the number of vice presidents, and made it a bit less top-heavy. Because at the beginning it was like, okay, we need everything, and we made it a bit too top-heavy. Now we're in a much more balanced place. And then we also wanted to keep the direct employee contact. We are not, I think we're talking about that in another table, don't have a works council in Germany, even though we have been around for 30 years. And we have also more than 500 people in Munich. We wanted to make sure that we keep that direct employee contact, because this has made us strong, and that makes us also agile. I've also worked in unionized environments, and there is a reason for everything. But when you are in a biotech growing environment, definitely it brings a certain level of agility if you can have less formal processes and more of direct employee interaction. But these things, when you are growing, how do you keep and you make sure that you keep this? This was not easy, and it needs a constant readjustment. Then we wanted to not only be an R&D organization, we wanted to be an integrated biopharma. That means now we have all the functions that Roche, or the Sandoz colleague have, with thousands of people, we have it in small. So we are an integrated biopharma, where we needed now a matrix organization, because we have people in the US and people in Germany, and they work in the same area. So then you bring a certain level of complexity there. And then what is the way in which we want to do this for us? The Sandoz way or the Novartis way is not going to be our way. So how do we create a matrix organization that works for us? And then we're also listed in Germany and the US. So that is also part of our DNA. We are German heritage, but we make our business, we make our money in the US. So the company is also very much American in many ways, and it has to be. I was part of a new management team that came in where even if you are based here in Germany, you need to have US experience. I work in the US at least 5 years. I did my last year of high school, so I'm Spanish, American, German, a combination of all these experiences. And this is needed even for the people here in Germany, because otherwise we will not be successful. The success of our business relies on the US because it's the biggest pharmaceutical market in the world and where the highest margins are. So you need to understand that, and you need to be able to understand how the US business works in order to be successful. And then the last, here is where I was talking about, we needed to be successful in the US. This is very different from where we came from. And then we also need to make sure that both investors in Germany, but in the United States, are also convinced about this new business model. Because unfortunately, Germany is not the place where biotechs really receive most of their funding. And that's why BioNTech is not listed in Germany, but in the NASDAQ. CureVac is a Dutch company. We were one of the first ones. We started here in Germany, but the funding and the opportunity to really convince and grow companies, biotech companies, is definitely more in the US. And we're trying to leverage both our strong German heritage, but also what the US market and the US business brings for biotechs. So our DNA really needed to change, and our culture really, we needed to become commercial. The pressure, now we report quarterly, and then the level of performance is much higher, the speed is much higher, so we needed to become more competitive, faster, and we needed to become integrated while not being more complex. So this is our journey, and as I said, it's always a constant adjustment. But this is who we want to be, with all the contrast and opposites that you may find in a situation like this. And when you think about how we transform a business, it was a complete transformation. And it had, of course, the strategy piece, that's how I started. And we were talking before, I think in a roundtable, that if you have a change that is not anchored in your business, you will never succeed, in my opinion. That's my experience. We were able to transform the company in 3 years. Why? Because we had to. We changed the culture because we had to, because we wanted to do something different. So we had not only a burning platform, but we also had a new business to deliver. If a change is not anchored in delivering something new, then of course it's not going to happen, because we don't change just because the sake of changing. You change because you want to have something different coming out of it. And we wanted a new business. We wanted a medicine for patients. And that also meant we needed to do things differently. And that, for me, culture is the way we do things. So culture is a reflection of what we do. And if we wanted to do something different and a different result, then of course we needed to change the way we're doing things. So it's one in the other. And what that started certainly with a strategy. We want to bring our own medicines to patients, and they need to get Monjuvi in the practice, no? So it starts with there, and then of course you need different things and you work differently. But then there are other aspects to it that have to do also, how do you adjust the people, the structures, and the processes to go in sync? And our whole transformation addressed and continues to address these three pieces. On the people side, we revamped our understanding of the people processes. We call it the SPRI program. It's a holistic performance, rewards, and leadership program. We also adjusted our mission and corporate identity. I started with that. How we are called. We are no longer the engineers of antibodies, but we are really there for patients. And then we derive our employer branding for it. And we look for people that want to do that and have those attributes. And then we continue to work on different ways of engaging our teams. And this is really our people agenda and how we are looking at it from a complete perspective. But then for this transformation to work for everybody, it also needs processes and the organizational piece on it. And of course, being R&D or being commercial is very different. We needed different kinds of processes, and that also asked for people to behave differently. The knowledge, the meaning of compliance and quality when you are bringing a medicine to the patients is very different. So we needed to adjust our processes, but also how people behave. The meaning of compliance and the meaning of quality is asking for people to also think about what they do and the impact in a different way. And then we also needed to become more efficient, and also we also needed to bring digital solutions to everybody, because now we were in 2 sites. So we also needed systems that would communicate US, Germany. We also needed to be efficient. Of course, we increased a lot the headcount, but if you ask people, they would have wanted even more headcount. So for every new thing, it was like, I need more people, but resources are limited. So you cannot always increase as much as people would want. So you need to be able to do more with the same. So we also implemented a lean initiative, because to tell people you are not going to get the headcount, yeah, but I have more work. I need to do more things. This is completely new. I said, okay, we get it, but let's try to see if we can take work out of the system. Because people were saying, how do you want me to do it? You needed to provide a framework, a recipe for people to try to do things with the same. And that's why the lean approach, we tried to look at things, how we can become more efficient, not to decrease costs, but to really optimize and be able to have enough resources to do other things. For us, lean was not a cost-cutting initiative, but it was also a way to control cost and also to make ourselves not so complex. And then, of course, there was a big part around structures and resources. We developed structures in the US and Germany. We also acquired a new company, so there was a big structural piece on the whole change. And of course, a merger is in itself a big change process when you are really integrating another company. So there were these 3 pieces, and they continue to be very important to make sure that the transformation in the end is successful. But it starts with the business. It starts with what you want to achieve, and then it has to do with a combination of people, processes, and structures. And then all of this happened in the middle of COVID, no? So we all and then COVID came. We heard it in all presentations, and then COVID came. So what happened? So we had our growth plans. What happened is that in times of COVID, not only did we have to hire for the growth that we wanted to, but we also were faced with much higher turnover than ever before. And this is only for Germany. From 9% we went to 16%. The US was even higher because of the merger as well. So in the end, we ended up last year with a turnover of 25%. So you imagine what that makes when you are trying to onboard people, when you need to replace, you need to grow and replace constantly. You need to onboard people constantly. And you need to manage all of this simultaneously. And in Germany, we didn't find all the people we needed. We needed to work and also hire people internationally. From all the hires in the last 2.5 years, 40% were international. Our number 1 country after Germany was India, for all the data and analytical skills. The 3rd country was Ukraine. We were able to find extremely good professionals coming to Germany from Ukraine, and we have hired many of them. I have one of them in my team, in my HR team. So we could not have done it without international talent, because there were not enough talents in Germany to be able to hire for everything we needed. So this is extremely important also to know. And that what did we learn? That virtual interviews, even though they are good, we came to the realization that a complete assessment was more difficult. It was much more difficult to have a complete assessment on the person, on their interpersonal skills, and also on the cultural fit. And we made some mistakes. Some of these people that left at the beginning, and also some of them was not the right fit. I mean, we had hundreds of people. So 100 of people, there's not every hiring is right. But we also, as soon as it was possible, the final, unless there was really a COVID phase in which we couldn't, the final decision before hiring somebody, we wanted to meet that person face to face. We saw that it made a difference. Not for the whole interview process, but at least for the final round. And Also, what we saw is that onboarding needed to be rethought, because we needed to make sure that people understood where we were going, where things were changing so fast, and we needed to integrate people in the company in a much more structured way. Because, of course, through COVID, many things that would have happened just by themselves, by people going to the office or having more structured environments, were not there. So onboarding was more critical than ever. So we really learned a lot, and now things are stabilizing a bit, but some things are for sure not going to change. I think the high turnover rate remains, even though it's not as extreme. And I think the fierce competition is also there. So we are going to have to figure out, in our industry, which is not very difficult we cannot automatize, because it's mostly knowledge workers, how are we going to deal with really the very tight market which we have. And if we have to look into international markets, then that also creates and also changes the culture, because it's no longer a German company, it's an international company. So what did we achieve, and what is our journey and our stories? So we have been able to really recruit a new workforce with a new mindset. We are now an integrated biopharma, and we are able to really deliver medicines for patients with a new workforce and also with a new way of doing things. And we have adjusted our business model and our DNA. There are still people in the company that have been there for 25 years that will tell you it's different than it was before. And they are okay with that, and they did not want the previous culture. But there are also some people that have left along the way because they wanted a different kind of company. And that's also fair. We needed to change, and we have been able to also change, and also in a very short period of time. And then I think what we did is also we diversified our workforce, and we internationalized our business. So right now we are a global company, where I come from a 55,000, now we're 650. So it's kind of like small, but it has everything. It has all the international aspects. It has the integrated approach for pharma. So it's really, we have been able to diversify our workforce and internationalize our business. And where are we right now? And what still needs to be done is really, how do we engage and retain people? Because for us, it's not that we want to retain just for the sake of retaining, but we need a certain stability, because otherwise the loss of productivity is huge. You are constantly onboarding new people, and so we need a certain level of stability to be able to deliver. And it's about engagement. It's not so much about retention. It's much more about engaging the workforce. And how do we take our internal and external stakeholders with us? For me, corporate communications in my company is key for the work I do. I think the old models of change management are dead, if I may say it. These traditional change models in which you had these models of create, manage, and cultivate, and then the change is done. Those are not applicable, at least not for us anymore. And I think for many industries as well, is about dealing with ambiguity. Dealing with ambiguity is the new normal. And the traditional change management approaches do not really work anymore. But what it works is really talking about engagement, about communication, about how do you engage internal and external stakeholders. And for me, corporate communications and the partnership has been really one of the success factors, that we go together, we develop a corporate identity, we translate into employer branding, we do the Christmas party together, we think through about everything together from a communication and HR perspective, because HR, without being able to communicate what we want to do and think about the employee experience and how things get across and how they are being perceived by the employees, then we will not be successful. So this is our journey. I think it's a different story than what maybe you have heard over the last 2 days, but I just wanted to share with you what a complete transformation means, and a change process that starts with the business, and then of course it really involves the whole organization. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Maria, for this interesting story here. Just for a question from your name, the MorphoSys. I mean, it implies that there is a change in. Where does this come from?
It comes from metamorphosis as well, transformation. And I think at the beginning, Simon Mulrooney, one of our founders, also had this vision of transforming how research was being done, how antibody development was being done. And that's where the name comes from metamorphosis.
So that's actually a quite good name to be always in this process of the constant change, right? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.